Welcome to Ghosted by the Machine, the podcast where job seekers break through the algorithm and get heard. No filters, no bots, just 5 minutes of truth. I'm your host, Mark Lame, and today we're giving the mic to someone who's actively seeking, actively showing up. Let's get into it. 5 minutes and 5 questions with today's guest, Jonathan Nelson from the Birmingham, Alabama area. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Mark, thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what role are you looking for these days?
A little bit about myself, obviously from Alabama, from South Alabama specifically. Worked in the sports and entertainment business for all these years. I graduated college in 1993 and was, in the midst of my second internship in professional sports. So basically, when I got my degree, I walked off the stage and pretty much started a full-time job in baseball, working for the Birmingham Barons. Working for the Barons in 1993, they won a championship under Terry Francona. The next year was 1994 with Michael Jordan. So it's hard to believe, or not hard to believe, that I had a desire, based on those both of experiences, to stay in baseball because of how unique and fun they were. And so basically worked for the Barons for a few more years, moved to Detroit, worked for the Tigers and their ticket sales department, selling groups and season tickets. Absolutely loved every minute of having my office or my desk at the corner, Michigan and Trumbull there at Tiger Stadium. And then I moved back to Birmingham into a management role, assistant general manager for a few years, and then took on the role as general manager and president general manager in August of 2004. And then this past June, mid-June, it became obvious that it was time for me to shift gears and just get out of that lane and try something new in life. And so that's where I'm at right now. And after sort of recalibrating and sort of resetting everything, I realized, one, I'm not the kind of guy that's just going to sit around and play golf. So I'm ready to get back into an opportunity to where my skill sets match a company and help them, achieve their goals.
So this whole process of looking for a new position, do you think AI is something new for you and you're learning it, and has it helped you in your job search? And if so, why?
Yeah, and my job search, it's sort of like, growing up in Fairhope, I used to have you fished on the bay, Mobile Bay. And, you could crab, you could fish, with a fishing pole, or you have a cast net. And a cast net, obviously, you throw out there, you can catch a variety of different things. So for me, with this approach and my experiences, quite frankly, is that I'm throwing a big cast net out there, not really pigeonholing myself into one specific job title, job industry, or job period. I'm really excited about, the next steps and sort of exploring a different opportunity. Being in baseball for over 33 years, again, was really a lot of fun. But it was one where, I experienced so many different quality opportunities. I was in sales, I was in operations, event planning, marketing, everything. So it was one of those where it was really fun. And so to be able to carry over and bring those sort of unique variety of talents to the table for a company is not something easy to sort of pursue different paths. So for me, the cast net I'm throwing out there is I'm just trying to find an opportunity with a company that's probably going to fit my lifestyle, fit, more importantly, the company, to where what I'm trying to do is the skills that I developed over the years and being in a leadership position and being the top executive for the Birmingham Barons for over 20 years. The experiences that I've had, not only, Michael Jordan's unique season in 1994, or working at a ballpark, multi-use ballpark like the Hoover Metropolitan Stadium, or being on the ground level of design, development, and overall construction and opening and really setting in place, Regions Field in downtown Birmingham, and being part of a overall revitalization and positive growth for the city of Birmingham and for the metropolitan area, is something obviously very unique. But when it comes to AI and as part of this journey, obviously this journey is uber unique for me, because having never been through this, the only time I've ever applied for jobs was after the 1996 Barron season. And the old way you used to do it is, obviously, you'd print your resume off, send it to all the different major league teams, and then you'd follow up, and you'd also hope for a call. And so that year I had two phone calls back, one by the Houston Astros, and I had a job interview and went through that process, and one was by the Detroit Tigers. And luckily with Detroit, that was the one that came, because that's the one that I wanted. Regardless, when it comes to AI and all these different new opportunities that's ushered in with, when I went through that process, obviously the internet was not really there, or at least in the infant stages of really getting going and being accessible for everybody and people learning it. But AI, for me during this process has been unique, and it's been unique to navigate because it's been a learning process, and to learn that, some of these conversations, interviews, so to say, have been, transcripted. It's great to see. You see up front right there almost immediately, the results of sort of the way things progressed. And, I'm probably my worst critic out there, but at the same time, this process, while it's reaching a conclusion for me, it's also one where I continue to learn, because the AI process, to me, it's not something that I feel like I've had my finger on the pulse precisely, but it's also something that it's unique and it's really worth exploring and finding out more information and seeing the benefits of it. So it's an ongoing process for me.
So, what is your secret skill or superpower that most resumes don't show?
My approach is being that utility player, because I bring to the table a variety of different experiences and knowledge and all those type things. When it comes to the secret sauce or secret power, I'm not going to be so bold as to believe that I have a secret power. But one would be is that to me, the biggest strength that I bring to the table is the experience, the knowledge of the market, but also even more importantly, the variety of relationships that I have. When you go through life, obviously you learn through a variety of different experiences, and, for good and bad. And the one thing that when we relocated to Regents Field, recognizing the importance of a variety of different relationships, and not just your naming rights partner or your pouring rights partner, but your municipal partner, the city, the county, the state, all those significant. And the relationships, as you get older, as I've gotten older, and, working and being blessed to work in baseball and, experience a variety of different, fun, unique experiences, you realize the value or just the relationships and developing those relationships. And so for me, if there was a secret power or secret sauce that's not really, in neon lights on my resume, it would probably be the strength of what those relationships are and the ability to develop those relationships and strengthen those relationships over time.
Now, those relationships are very, very important, especially in the job search market. What's one thing you tell recruiters or hiring managers today about yourself?
I think that, one, the recruiters that I've spoken to, one, they love talking about Michael Jordan. They love talking about a variety of different, sports aspects. Everybody's a fan. And, there's one recruiter that I spoke to, great guy, and he lives in the Northwest. And he just, knowing that I worked there that 94 season, really wants me, or thinks or says jokingly, to help to get the Supersonics back to Seattle, but I don't have any to muscle when it comes to that. But quite frankly, when talking with recruiters, I think more than anything, they recognize that, the more that they sort of unpack and have a dialogue about what things that I've sort of been able to pursue over my career, is that there's a variety of different talents that I bring to the table that could, certainly carry over and be beneficial for a potential company.
Now, the biggest thing is you've been working in a team environment. I'm sure that's one thing they look at the fact that you've led teams and you're part of a team. Is
Yeah,
there
I mean,
anything?
in working in sports, different sports, different sort of rhythms. When it comes to, I've always thought that, working in maybe, a different sport, if you work in football, what do you have at the most? 2 games in 2 weeks. For a baseball, it's sort of the survival of the fittest. And so, and it's not, it's the continual process of cycle and series of getting ready for the next game, series, homestand, or the next season. And so, working a baseball season at the minor league level or at the big league level is going to be 6 to 7 months. And you're basically working doctor's hours. I've always thought it would be similar to working doctor's hours, because you're basically working 6 days in a row, and then you're off for another 6 or 7 to 8 days. And then you're back on for another 6 to maybe even 12 out of 13 days. So
Sure.
it's one of those where the demands, are pretty high. So it can do some wear and tear on you, both mentally and physically.
Is there anything giving you hope right now?
Well, absolutely. I think that, when you go through something like, looking, to change careers, change industries, and you start from, having been out of that game. I've been on the other side of the desk for so long, hiring people and, assembling staffs with the Barons again, for over 20 years, and loved it. Quite frankly, I was sort of clueless about sort of what the rigors and demands and the uniqueness of what is on this side of the desk would be. I think more than anything, is continuing to go down this road. I think the most surprising thing for me and the most refreshing thing for me is just the abundance of people who are willing to listen and help. It's always going to be one where when you start, talking to friends, associates, colleagues, and just people that you've had, relationships with over the years, is that, there's going to be probably some doors that might open quick, some doors that might open slowly, and some doors that might not open at all. But the folks who I've continued to stay in touch with, and again, just really, my process is not as lengthy, probably as in depth as a lot of folks. Yet at the same time, to me, the most refreshing thing that gives you hope, not just about what an overall process is, or just the state of economy, or just, but it's about people being there for other people. And I think to me, that's the most satisfying and just appreciative thing is what I've learned during this entire process. People being there, people being supportive. And people being open, knowing that, I worked in baseball for all those years, loved it. Do I still have a desire to be in sports, work in baseball? Absolutely. Yet at the same time, people recognize and your friends truly, want to help, if there's an opportunity, with another relationship or just connecting you with other folks where dialogues could be beneficial.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for sharing your story today. And if you're watching out there listening and thinking, hey, this sounds like me, you're not alone. And if you'd like to tell your story, email me or DM me. And if you want to stay plugged into the real stories, real insights, and real humans behind today's broken hiring system, make sure to follow and subscribe to all our social channels for new episodes, shorts, and conversations every week. I'm Mark Lane, and this is Ghosted by the Machine, because behind every application, there's a human. Let's make hiring human again. Jonathan, thanks again for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.